Daniel lived in a quiet colony on the edge of the Helios system. The colony was small, with neat rows of living pods, green hydroponic gardens, and a thin layer of artificial sky that glowed softly at night. Life was simple and calm, just the way Daniel liked it. He liked his routine: work in the research lab during the day, a walk through the colony gardens in the evening, and quiet reading before sleep. Nothing ever changed. That was until the new neighbors arrived. It started one morning with a low hum in the air. Daniel stepped outside his pod to see a large, strange ship landing near the empty pods next to his. Unlike the regular human transport ships, this one shimmered with colors that changed as the light touched it. Its surface was smooth and seemed alive, almost breathing. A group of aliens stepped out, moving gracefully, their bodies tall and thin with skin that reflected the colors of the ship. They carried small crates that glowed faintly with blue light. Daniel blinked. He had seen aliens before in spaceports, but never this close. These ones were the Zarathi, a species known for their unique biology and strange customs. Rumors in the colony said the Zarathi were intelligent and artistic, but they were also private and rarely mixed with humans. And now here they were, moving in next door. Among the group, Daniel noticed one who seemed different. She, or it, was smaller, with glowing eyes that seemed to watch everything carefully. Her movements were quick and delicate, almost bird-like. Daniel felt a strange mix of curiosity and unease. He had read about Zarathi mating seasons, a time when their instincts became very strong and their behavior unusual, but he never thought he would witness it firsthand. The Zarathi started unpacking their glowing crates, arranging them in symmetrical patterns outside their home. Lyra, as Daniel later learned her name, kept looking in his direction, tilting her head as if trying to understand him. It was unsettling, but Daniel could not look away. He was used to humans being straightforward, but the Zarathi seemed to communicate without words, using their posture, gestures, and glowing patterns on their skin. Daniel's first instinct was to avoid them. He considered staying inside, pretending he was busy, but curiosity won. By mid-afternoon, he found himself standing near the fence that separated their pods. "Hello," Daniel called cautiously. Lyra froze and turned slowly. Her glowing eyes brightened and her skin shimmered with soft colors. She stepped forward, making a sound like a soft hum. Daniel did not understand, but it sounded friendly, not threatening. I'm Daniel. I live next door," he said, unsure if she could understand him. Lyra tilted her head again. Her hums changed slightly, almost like a tune. Daniel smiled awkwardly. He had no idea what he was doing, but something told him this was important. Over the next few days, Daniel watched as the Zarathi settled in. Lyra's behavior became more noticeable. She spent hours outside, arranging lights, glowing stones, and flowers from the colony gardens in precise patterns. Sometimes she emitted soft melodic sounds, walking slowly in circles, sometimes jumping lightly as if celebrating some hidden ritual. Daniel wanted to ask what she was doing, but he hesitated. He remembered the stories of Zarathi mating season, how their instincts made them act in ways humans could not understand. He decided to give her space, but every morning, he noticed her watching him from a distance, glowing softly. One evening, while Daniel watered his small garden patch, Lyra approached closer than before. She carried a small crate with glowing orbs inside. Daniel froze. "These are for the garden?" he asked, trying to sound calm. Lyra made a small chirping sound, then placed the crate near his plants. She arranged the orbs in a pattern that matched the way she had set up lights near her pod. The soft glow bathed the garden in colors Daniel had never seen before. The flowers seemed to react to it, bending slightly as if reaching for the light. Daniel could not help but marvel. "You really know what you're doing," he said. Lyra tilted her head and her glow brightened. Daniel laughed quietly. "I guess that means thank you," she hummed, a sound that felt warm and friendly. Daniel realized she was trying to communicate, but in her own way. Days passed and Daniel's curiosity grew. He started to observe her rituals more closely. He noticed that her behavior became more intense at certain times of the day. She moved faster, hummed louder, and her glowing patterns shifted rapidly. Daniel remembered the warnings about Zarathi mating season. Could it be that Lyra was in the middle of it? One evening, the colony's announcement system buzzed. A local official reminded everyone to avoid unnecessary contact with Zarathi neighbors during mating season. Daniel sighed. He had guessed as much, but now it felt real. He was living next door to an alien in the most sensitive period of her life. He tried to keep his distance, but it was impossible. Lyra had started leaving small gifts at his door, glowing stones, carefully folded leaves, and small glowing orbs that pulsed gently in his hands. Daniel did not know how to respond. He was fascinated and slightly nervous, but he did not want to offend her. Then one night he heard soft melodic sounds coming from the space between the pods. He stepped outside and saw Lyra performing a dance-like ritual. Her glow brightened and dimmed rhythmically. She moved with elegance, spinning in circles and placing glowing orbs in patterns that seemed to tell a story. Daniel watched silently, amazed. Suddenly Lyra stopped and looked directly at him. The intensity in her eyes startled him. It was not threatening, but it was focused. Daniel felt a strange feeling in his chest, a mixture of curiosity, respect, and awe. He realized that her actions were not random. Every move, every glow, every sound was a message, even if he could not fully understand it. He stepped closer, cautiously. I'm watching," he said softly. Lyra's glow shifted to soft green, a color Daniel learned meant trust or approval among Zirathi. She continued her ritual, now including him in her movements. He tried to imitate her, arranging a few orbs in a pattern she had shown him. She tilted her head and hummed, a sound that seemed like laughter. Daniel laughed too, feeling more relaxed than he had in weeks. It was strange, Daniel thought. He did not understand all of it, but he felt a connection. The alien neighbor in the middle of her mating season was reaching out to him, not aggressively, but in a way that made him part of something bigger. Something ancient and beautiful. By the end of the week, Daniel realized one thing. Life in the quiet colony would never be the same. Lyra's presence was more than just a curiosity. It was a challenge, a puzzle, and an unexpected opportunity, and he could not help but wonder what other surprises were waiting during this strange and mysterious mating season. The next morning, Daniel woke up earlier than usual. He felt a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. Last night's encounter with Lyra had left him thinking all night. Her glowing patterns, her rhythmic sounds, and the careful way she included him in her rituals. It was fascinating, but it was also confusing. He had never interacted with an alien in such a personal and strange way before. When he stepped outside, he saw Lyra already moving around her pod. She was carrying a small bundle of glowing leaves and placing them in intricate patterns on the ground. Her hums filled the air, soft and melodic. Daniel watched from a distance, unsure whether he should approach or stay hidden. He decided to move closer, slowly, and waved gently. Lyra paused mid-step and turned her glowing eyes toward him. The colors shifted rapidly, blue, pink, then green. Daniel remembered from last night that green meant trust or approval. Encouraged, he stepped closer. "Good morning," he said carefully. "Are you doing another ritual?" Lyra tilted her head and made a series of chirping sounds. Daniel didn't understand the words, but her tone felt welcoming. She gestured for him to come closer and pointed at the ground where the glowing leaves formed a pattern. Daniel crouched and studied it. The shapes were complex, almost like symbols, but also like a map of energy or movement. "Is this important?" he asked. Lyra hummed and nodded. Then she gestured toward him as if asking him to help. Daniel hesitated. He didn't want to mess it up, but curiosity pushed him forward. He carefully moved a few leaves into place, following her silent instructions. Lyra's glow pulsed brightly, a clear sign that he had done well. Over the next few days, Daniel tried to understand more of the Zirathi customs. He went to the colony database and read everything he could find about their mating season. He learned that it was not just about reproduction. It was a time of heightened senses, focus, and creativity. Their instincts pushed them to form connections, communicate, and solve problems. But the details were vague. Each Zirathi seemed to experience it differently. Lyra's behavior became more pronounced. She left small gifts at Daniel's door every morning, glowing stones, carefully folded leaves, and tiny musical crystals that played soft tones when touched. At first, Daniel had no idea how to respond. Should he give her something back? Should he just say thank you? One day he tried. He brought a small patch of flowers from his garden and arranged them in a simple pattern outside her pod. Lyra's glow brightened instantly. She hummed a melody that Daniel felt in his chest, a sound full of joy and approval. For a moment he felt a deep sense of connection, as if the boundaries between human and Zirathi were not so rigid after all. But it was also confusing. Some of Lyra's gestures were hard to interpret. She would suddenly stop her ritual, The colony quieted down after the energy grid scare, but Daniel's life did not return to normal. In fact, it became anything but normal. Everywhere he went, people whispered. Some thanked him for helping during the crisis, but others gave him uneasy looks. They were not sure how to feel about a human working so closely with a Zarathi, especially during their mating season. Daniel tried to ignore the whispers. What mattered was the memory of that moment in the control room, the way he and Lyra had worked side by side, understanding each other without words. It felt natural, like two puzzle pieces finally fitting together. He could not explain it, but it gave him a sense of pride. One morning, Daniel stepped outside to find another gift on his doorstep. This time it was not glowing stones or leaves. It was a small crystalline structure shaped like a star. The edges caught the light and scattered it into 1,000 colors. Daniel picked it up carefully, smiling. He knew who had left it. Looking over the fence, he saw Lyra watching. Her glow pulsed green, then soft pink. Daniel held up the crystal and said, "Thank you." "It's beautiful," Lyra hummed, her tone light and playful. She gestured toward his garden. Daniel understood she wanted him to place it there. He set the crystal among the flowers, and as the morning sun hit it, the entire patch glowed with shifting colors. Daniel laughed in delight, and Lyra's hum rose with joy. From that day on, their bond grew stronger. Daniel began spending more time with Lyra, helping her with her rituals and learning the meanings of her colors and sounds. He still did not understand everything, but he no longer felt like an outsider. He discovered that the Zarathi mating season was not only about rituals. It sharpened their problem-solving and creativity. Lyra showed him puzzles made of glowing stones which shifted when touched. Together they solved them, combining her instinct with his logical thinking. The puzzles revealed hidden patterns that glowed brighter the closer they got to the answer. Daniel could tell this was more than just play. It was training, a way for the Zarathi to prepare their minds during this heightened season. Daniel's respect for Lyra grew. She was not just performing strange rituals. She was using her season to create, to solve, and to connect. And she wanted him to be part of it. But the colony council was not happy. They called Daniel in for a meeting. "Your cooperation with the Zarathi is unusual," one official said. "We appreciate your role in the energy grid incident, but there are concerns. Their mating season is unpredictable. We don't know how much influence it could have on human behavior." Daniel clenched his fists under the table. With all respect, she helped save the colony. "Isn't that proof that working together is good?" The officials exchanged looks. One sighed. "Be careful, Daniel. Curiosity is fine, but don't forget, we don't fully understand their ways." Daniel left the meeting frustrated. Why couldn't they see what he saw? Lyra was not dangerous. She was brilliant, and her season was opening doors humans had never imagined. That evening, he sat in his garden, replaying the council's words in his mind. Lyra appeared quietly carrying another glowing orb. She placed it beside him, humming softly as if sensing his mood. Daniel sighed. "They don't trust this. They don't trust us." Lyra tilted her head, her glow shifting to a calm blue. She touched the orb and it pulsed gently. Daniel realized she was trying to comfort him. He smiled faintly. "You're not dangerous. You're incredible." Her glow brightened and she let out a soft melody that filled the air like a lullaby. For the first time in days, Daniel felt peace. The bond between them became clearer in the days that followed. Daniel began to notice subtle changes in himself. He felt more focused, more creative, even outside of their rituals. At work, he solved problems faster, as though his mind had sharpened. Was it Lyra's influence? Or the way he was learning to see patterns like a Zarathi? Others started to notice too. A neighbor approached him one day and said, "Your garden, it looks different, healthier. Did she help you?" Daniel glanced at Lyra's pod glowing softly in the evening light. "Yes, she knows how to make things thrive." The neighbor hesitated, then said quietly, "Maybe it's not so bad having them here." Daniel realized that their bond was beginning to affect more than just the two of them. People were watching, learning, questioning old fears. One night, as Daniel walked home from the lab, he saw a group of children gathered near Lyra's pod. She was showing them a glowing puzzle, her hums playful and light. The children laughed, trying to mimic her movements. Daniel watched as she encouraged them, her glow pulsing gently. For a moment, the colony felt different. Less divided, more connected. Daniel stepped forward. "Lyra, you're teaching them?" She hummed brightly, nodding. Daniel smiled. They'll never forget this. As he walked the children home, he realized just how unexpected his bond with Lyra had become. It wasn't just about rituals or gifts anymore. It was changing the colony little by little. But not everyone was pleased. Some colonists whispered that Daniel was too close to the alien. Others feared the Zarathi season might influence human emotions in dangerous ways. Daniel ignored the gossip, but he couldn't shake the feeling that tensions were rising. One evening, while Daniel and Lyra were arranging glowing stones in his garden, a voice called from the path. "Hey, leave him alone!" A man stood there frowning, his arms crossed. "We don't know what you're doing to him. You should stay on your side." Daniel stood quickly. "She's not hurting anyone." "She's helping." The man shook his head. "It's unnatural." Then he walked away, muttering. Daniel's heart pounded. He turned to Lyra. Her glow had dimmed, her hum low and uncertain. Daniel knelt beside her. "Don't listen to him. I trust you." Her glow brightened slowly, turning green again. She hummed softly, a note that steadied his heart. That night, Daniel realized how deep their bond had grown. It wasn't just about curiosity anymore. It was about trust, loyalty, and respect. He had stood up for her, and she had stood with him. The colony might not understand yet, but Daniel knew one thing. This bond was real. And it was only the beginning. The colony had settled into a strange rhythm. Some humans were still uneasy about the Zarathi, but many were beginning to soften. Daniel's quiet bond with Lyra had become something the children admired, and even some adults watched with silent curiosity. Still, shadows of distrust lingered. Daniel tried to focus on his daily work at the energy labs, but one afternoon alarms echoed across the colony. The steady hum of the power grid faltered and the lights flickered. Workers froze in shock as panels blinked red with warning symbols. "It's happening again," one technician whispered. Daniel's heart raced. The last failure had nearly shut down half the colony. He rushed to the main console, scanning the readings. Energy was leaking out in waves, far too fast for the system to contain. If it collapsed, not only the colony's power but also its life support system would fail. "We have to shut it down," someone shouted. "No," Daniel said quickly. "If we shut it down now, it'll take days to restart. We won't survive that long." Fear rippled through the room. Everyone looked at him, waiting for an answer. Daniel thought fast, but then he remembered something. Lyra. Her sense of patterns. Her ability to see energy in ways humans couldn't. "I need her," he said firmly. Minutes later, Daniel stood at the edge of Lyra's pod, breathless. She had already felt the shift in energy. Her glow was restless, flashing orange and white. When she saw him, she hummed in sharp notes, asking a question without words. Daniel explained quickly. "The grid is failing. I don't know how to stabilize it without help. Please, come with me." Lyra's glow steadied into green, the color of resolve. She followed him without hesitation. When they entered the control center, the technicians stared in shock. A Zarathi inside human systems during mating season, it was unthinkable. But Daniel ignored their murmurs. "Trust me," he said firmly. "She can see what we can't." Lyra moved closer to the main energy display. Her body pulsed with light, syncing with the flickering lines on the screen. She touched the panel gently, humming low. The readings shifted, translating into a smoother pattern. Daniel watched in awe. She was aligning herself with the grid's unstable pulse. "Daniel," one technician whispered. "It looks like she's talking to it." Daniel nodded. "She is. Now we follow her lead." For the next hour, Daniel and Lyra worked side by side. She hummed, pointed, and glowed in colors that guided him. Red for danger, blue for steady flow, green for safe adjustment. Daniel translated her signals into human commands, rerouting energy, sealing leaks, and stabilizing circuits. At one point, the grid spiked dangerously, throwing sparks across the room. Lyra flinched but pressed her glowing hand against the display. Her whole body pulsed bright white, resonating with the unstable energy. Daniel realized she was absorbing some of the shock to buy him time. "Hold on, Lyra," he muttered, fingers flying across the console. She hummed urgently, low, then high. Daniel understood. "Hurry." He rerouted the final sequence and the system steadied. The alarms faded. The panels shifted from red to green. The colony's hum of life returned. The room erupted in relieved cheers, but Daniel was focused only on Lyra. She staggered slightly, her glow dimmed to pale yellow. Daniel rushed to her side. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. Her hum was faint but steady, telling him she would recover. Daniel helped her sit, his worry plain on his face. The technicians, once skeptical, now looked. Life in the colony had changed since Daniel and Lyra saved the energy grid. The humans who had been skeptical before were now watching them more closely, some with curiosity, some with admiration. The children adored the Zarathi, copying her gestures and humming along with her melodies. But not all attention was positive. One morning, Daniel received a sharp tap on his shoulder. He turned to see Marla, a council assistant, looking worried. "Daniel, people are talking. Some colonists think your relationship with Lyra is inappropriate," she said carefully. Daniel frowned. "Inappropriate?" "She helped save the colony. She taught me things no human could understand." "How is that inappropriate?" Marla hesitated. "It's the mating season. People fear it might influence humans. They don't understand her, Daniel. They fear what they don't know." Daniel shook his head. He had expected some tension, but he hadn't realized how strong it would be. "I trust her. That's what matters." Marla nodded slowly. "I just wanted you to be aware." Daniel walked back to his pod, thinking. The whispers in the colony had grown louder. Some neighbors avoided his garden. Others stopped sharing meals with him. Yet the children still played near Lyra's pod, and a few curious adults quietly observed their rituals. When Daniel stepped into his garden that evening, he saw Lyra arranging glowing orbs in a new pattern. Her hums were soft but vibrant, pulsing with life. She looked up as he approached, her glowing eyes flickering green, a sign of trust. Daniel knelt beside her. "People are scared. They don't understand you." Lyra hummed a note that felt warm and comforting. She reached out, touching his hand with one glowing finger. The colors shifted gently, blue, then green, then a soft pink. Daniel smiled faintly. He understood her message. They would face this together. Over the next few days, Daniel tried to explain Lyra's behavior to others in the colony. He held small demonstrations of her rituals, showing how the glowing patterns worked, and how her humming and gestures could influence plants, machines, and even problem-solving tasks. Some humans were amazed. Engineers asked questions about her energy manipulation. Farmers asked for advice on soil and crop arrangements. Children laughed and copied the patterns in the streets. But even as admiration grew, fear remained. A few neighbors avoided Daniel and Lyra entirely. A group of workers whispered behind their backs, warning others not to let the Zarathi influence them. Daniel overheard someone mutter, "It's unnatural. Humans shouldn't get involved with them." Daniel clenched his fists, but he reminded himself. Trust and respect mattered more than gossip. One day, a small emergency tested that trust. A shipment of essential supplies had been delayed, and the colony's storage units were running low. Panic started to spread among some colonists. Daniel quickly realized that the Zarathi's instincts could help. Lyra, in her mating season heightened state, could sense patterns in logistics and timing that humans would not notice. He found her arranging glowing orbs in her garden. "We need your help," he said urgently. Lyra's glow shifted rapidly, orange, then white, then green. She understood. Together, they organized a system for tracking incoming shipments, distributing supplies efficiently, and predicting where delays would cause the most problems. The humans assisting them were amazed at how the patterns seemed to flow naturally, solving problems almost before they arose. By nightfall, the colony was calm again. Supplies were safe and panic had been avoided. Daniel looked at Lyra full of admiration. "You didn't just save us physically like before. You saved us socially too." Lyra hummed softly, leaning close to him. Her glow flickered gently, a small, reassuring light in the growing darkness of uncertainty. But not everyone accepted this change. A human engineer named Varric approached Daniel later that evening, frustration written on his face. "You're letting her influence everything," he said harshly. "Humans are supposed to lead here, not follow a Zarathi's instincts. We're losing control." Daniel took a deep breath. "Lyra didn't replace humans. She works with us. That's how we succeed. Humans alone nearly failed the energy grid. Together we thrive. That's what matters." Varric shook his head. "People will not like it, trust me. They fear it." Daniel ignored him and returned to his garden. Lyra waited, her glow calm and steady, as if understanding his frustration without needing to say anything. The next morning, Daniel noticed something remarkable. The colony had begun to change. Children followed Lyra's patterns in their games. Adults began experimenting with her methods in engineering and farming. Even skeptical neighbors cautiously tried out small rituals of pattern arrangement, humming, or energy observation. Daniel realized that the bond between humans and Zarathi had created something new. It wasn't just friendship. It was a form of cooperation that neither species could achieve alone. The colony was learning, growing, and adapting in ways Daniel had never expected. He laughed quietly to himself. Who would have thought that an alien in mating season could teach humans so much? Lyra hummed in response, her glow pulsing softly. She had become more than a neighbor or a companion. She had become a teacher, a partner, and a symbol of something bigger than either of them. However, tensions were still there. A small group of colonists had formed a quiet resistance to this new way of living. They questioned every decision, mistrusted every ritual, and whispered warnings about human influence being too great. Daniel could not stop them all, but he could lead by example. He spent more time demonstrating collaboration with Lyra. They held open sessions in the garden, showing how humans and Zarathi could solve problems, grow food, and even repair machines together. Slowly, more people joined. Even some of the resistant colonists watched in silence, curiosity replacing fear, if only a little. One evening, Daniel and Lyra stood on the edge of the garden, looking out at the colony. Lights blinked in pods and streets below, the hum of daily life echoing softly. "You've changed things," Daniel said quietly. Lyra's glow flickered, green and soft pink this time. She hummed a low, contented note. Daniel smiled. "Not just the colony, me too. I see things differently now. I notice patterns. I think differently. I've learned from you more than anyone else ever could have taught me." She leaned closer, her hum gentle, almost musical. Daniel realized that their bond had grown beyond survival, beyond curiosity. It had become mutual respect and understanding, a connection between two very different species. The mating season was still ongoing, and they both knew that Lyra's heightened instincts would fade eventually. But Daniel felt confident that the lessons, the bond, and the cooperation they had built would remain. For the first time in weeks, Daniel felt hope. The colony could adapt, humans and Zarathi could work together, and fear could slowly be replaced by understanding. As the night fell and the artificial stars above the colony twinkled softly, Daniel and Lyra continued arranging glowing stones and humming melodies. They had faced fear, suspicion, and chaos, but together they had built something new, something stronger than either species alone. And Daniel knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The colony had changed. It wasn't perfect. There were still whispers and cautious glances. But the fear that had once divided humans and Zarathi had begun to fade. Daniel could feel it everywhere, in the streets, in the workshops, and even in the children's laughter. For weeks, he and Lyra had continued their routines, working side by side. The energy grid remained stable. Crops were thriving thanks to Lyra's guidance, and small innovations were popping up in the colony because of her influence. She had become more than a neighbor or a teacher. She was a partner in every sense. One morning, Daniel woke to find Lyra arranging glowing crystals in his garden. Their soft light cast long shadows on the ground, painting the flowers in colors that shifted and danced. Lyra looked up and saw him. Her glow flickered green, pink, and gold, colors he had learned to read over time. "Good morning," Daniel said, smiling. She hummed softly in reply, a melody of welcome and warmth. Daniel joined her, helping place the crystals in a new pattern he had not seen before. Together they worked in silence, letting the light and the rhythm guide them. Word of their success had spread. Colony leaders who had once doubted Daniel and Lyra were now seeking their guidance. Workshops opened where humans and Zarathi collaborated to improve energy distribution, food production, and even transportation. The colony was learning to function as a true community, each species respecting the other's strengths. But more than systems and efficiency, Daniel noticed something else. The humans themselves were changing. Fear was being replaced by curiosity, hesitation by cooperation. People were experimenting with Lyra's methods, arranging patterns and observing energy flows. The colony was alive with ideas, movement, and color. Daniel marveled at the transformation. He had never imagined that a single Zarathi in her mating season could create such a ripple effect. And yet, it had happened, not because of fear or force, but because of trust and understanding. One afternoon, Daniel received a message from the council. They requested his presence at the main hall. He knew it must be about the colony's progress and perhaps about the influence of the Zarathi. He found Lyra waiting for him at the edge of the garden, her glow steady and calm. "Are you ready?" he asked. She pulsed softly, green and blue. Daniel took that as a yes. At the council meeting, the El greeted him Dogu,